Hi everyone, welcome to today's Family Talk. My name is Steve Beha. I am the Family Outreach and Education Coordinator for the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities. Today's topic is going to be about frauds, scams, and what families can do to know about them and what they can also do to help prevent them from happening. Today I have two guests. First one to my left here is Danielle. Danielle is with the Attorney General's Consumer Protection Section. And I also have Connie MacLaughlin with DODD's MUI unit. So welcome both of you today.
Thank you.
So Danielle, I just want to start with what's your position, what's your role with the Attorney General's office? Just give us a little bit of background in that.
Sure. So I am a consumer educator with the Office of Ohio Attorney General Mike DeWine, and I travel the state of Ohio doing presentations on to Ohioans on how to protect themselves from fraud and scams, as well as identity theft, and also teach them about their consumer rights.
Okay, great. And Connie, give us just a little bit of background about your position with the department, what your role is there, what the MUI unit kind of does.
Absolutely. The MUI unit is tasked with looking at health and welfare issues that impact individuals with developmental disabilities. And we oversee the major unusual incidents that are investigated across the state. And some of those include scams and exploitation that we'll be talking about today.
Awesome, awesome. So let's just jump right into it. Danielle, what are some common tactics, some things that you all are seeing at the Attorney General's office that families should be aware of?
Yeah, so unfortunately I do see this a lot. I travel the state of Ohio multiple times a week. Some of the scams that we see, some of the most common ones are pressure to act immediately. So I like to call them those scare tactic scams. And one of them would be the imposter scam. So you get a phone call and they say it's the IRS. They tell you that you owe back taxes, and if you don't pay immediately, they're going to come and arrest you. So they want to catch you off guard, they want to scare you, they want to do anything they can do so that you don't have time to think, you don't have time to mull it over or talk to someone about those scams. So that's one of the common tactics, those, pressure to act immediately. Another one is just request for any personal information at all. So this we tend to call phishing scams. They're phishing for personal information, such as your name, maybe an address, maybe an account number for a financial institution. We see a lot of robocalls with phishing scams. So several years ago, there was Rachel from Card Services. It was a robocall. She said that she needed information about our, financial institution. So that's phishing. So any kind of personal information. Another one that we see commonly is they want you to keep it a secret. So don't tell anybody about this conversation. We see this in the grandparent scam. So your grandson or your granddaughter calls you on the phone and they say they're in trouble, they've been in an accident, they've been arrested because it's their fault, you need to send money. But please don't tell mom and dad. Wait, I want to tell them in person. So all of a sudden now you're scared for your grandchild, your heartstrings are pulled, you do anything for them. That's what they want. They want you to run out, get that gift card, get that money, prepaid money card, and then give them those numbers on the back of it so they can transfer those funds through the computer. We also see that in the sweetheart scam. So don't tell anybody about our relationship. Our relationship, nobody else is going to understand it. So, you start a relationship online, maybe through Facebook or maybe these dating websites, and pretty quickly afterwards, they're going to start asking you for money. They want to come see you, but their vehicle's broken down. But again, please keep this conversation a secret. Don't tell anyone. They don't want you to talk to people. Another common scams is if they request a wire transfer, a prepaid money card, or gift cards as the form of a payment. So you're in a conversation with someone about one of these typical conversations that we see as a scam, and the form of the payment that they like are those. What we tell people now and what we're commonly seeing are gift cards. So Amazon gift cards, iTunes gift cards. And a lot of times when I tell people this in some of my presentations, they start laughing like, oh, how silly. But they like those forms of payments because they can transfer those funds online by using those numbers on the back of the card. Also, they could just sell them outright. You know, it's a gift card. So you're not thinking clearly when, you know, you get bombarded. It's a bad time of the day, dinner, or you just woke up from a nap, or, you know, you're not thinking about these things. And that's what they want to do, is catch you off guard. So another common scam is guaranteed to make money, right? We're all financially driven, right? That $60 that we're going to win on that scratch off is going to help us save for the family vacation next year, and scammers know that. So, you know, you've won the prizes in sweepstakes or this lottery, and you're more drawn to believe that because we're financially driven, and scammers know that. So those are some of the tactics, as well as some of those scams that we are seeing all kind of combined together. But
yeah, one of the ones on the list that I saw that kind of stood out to me was the fake check.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in today's age, we're driven online, we have credit cards, things like, how prominent are fake checks today?
We're still seeing them. Actually, I received an email link about a fake check scam, and the FTC put out some feelers to kind of look and know what they are. So you could get a fake check. Maybe you thought you entered a sweepstakes, let's say, and you've won these prizes, and with those prizes you have to pay fees and taxes. So sometimes we see that you get a check in the mail with that. So deposit this check for your winnings or whatever, and then with your own money send them back. So it's really easy to make these fake checks look real with color copiers these days. You know, you can go to Staples or any office supply store and buy check paper, has a watermark seal. So there's little things that you have to look for, but we are seeing that. And that's how they get you is, you know, the Attorney General's office also receives these fake checks. I have examples of them, and I show people. They really don't care. They just really want you to think you've got all this money or winnings, deposit it, and then use your money or a money order to send it back, the taxes and fees.
So Connie, we just went over some of the common scams that we see just generally in the general public. What does our MUI data say about how these scams are being used against folks in our own system?
Yeah, I'd say every year we see about 120 of these cases, and most of them are the scams that Danielle talked about. A lot of times it's someone connecting with someone on Facebook or some other social media outlet and being befriended, and the individuals we support sometimes don't have a lot of friends or companions, and so when someone befriends them and they say, will you send me $50, or will you go buy a Walmart gift card and send it to me, they want to do that. They want to please them so that friendship will be continued. So we're seeing that. We're seeing some of the people filing taxes on the individuals that we support, and so when their caregiver or payee goes to file the taxes, they've said the taxes have already been filed for that person. We've seen those kind of scams. A lot of times it's asking them to send a money order or a gift card that can't easily be tracked. So it's not like you can put a stop payment on a check or check a credit card. So that money, once it's left that person through the form of a gift card or a money order, a lot of times there's no way to stop that. So those are the kind of scams we're seeing. And oftentimes the person perpetrating it is someone that we don't know of. So it's someone they've met online most of the time. It's someone they've met in the community, or someone that has called them and asked them to send money. And in one sad case, a gentleman was asked to send money, and when the person said no through Facebook, they received a message threatening their life, and so they ended up sending the money. And so a lot of times, you know, we try to make sure that people are being safe as they can be online, but knowing that all of us could fall victim of that.
That's a good point. So if somebody were to fall victim, Danielle, what's the best way? What should they do? Who should they reach out to if they feel like they've been a victim of one of these scams?
So they should reach out to the Attorney General's office by calling 1-800-282-0515 and report that scam. we do look at those reports. We want to know what scams are common out there. We want to be able to go out and educate consumers about those scams. So if we see new trends or maybe a new scam, we're going to make sure Ohio citizens know about that. We also can log that. A lot of times it is hard to kind of, find these people. Unfortunately, a lot of them are out of the country. They use other people as money hoppers to kind of, through these romance scams, unfortunately, possibly to skirt jurisdiction and hide the trail, so to speak. So it is difficult to track these people down. However, they have arrested several individuals in India as well as the United States on the imposter scam, the IRS scam, saying you owe back taxes. So we're hoping to see that one kind of fall off, or we don't see it as often. So they're working. They're trying to stop these scammers. So calling the Attorney General's office, going online to ohioattorneygeneral.gov. You can report it online as well. Reach out to the Federal Trade Commission. I mean, all these organizations work together to try to help Ohioans. So tell somebody, for sure.
And Connie, in the DD system, if a family member feels like their loved one has been taken advantage of by one of these scams, what is their action? What should they do? How should they report that?
Right. We tell them obviously to report it locally to law enforcement, but also to contact the county board so an investigation can be filed and investigated on their behalf. And a lot of times the reason we do that is we may not always recover those funds, but we may be able to come up with a prevention plan and work towards preventing this from occurring again for that individual and their family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we just went over kind of what to do if something happens. How do we prevent it from happening? What are some steps family members can take to prevent themselves or their loved ones to be put in the situation of being taken advantage of by one of these scams?
So I have a couple tips. One of the most important one is stay educated. This is a great opportunity to help people become educated. Our office and I do these presentations. They're free to the public. We just ask for a group of 10 to 15 individuals to speak to. I would like to get out there more and speak to especially families and people with disabilities as well. Also, talk to your family members. Share the information that you know. The other thing that I say is, come up with code words so that you can verify if it is somebody or not. A nickname that only you would know about your family member or something to verify that. Also, you want to make sure that your settings on all of your devices are set properly. So as Connie was talking about these social media scams, you want to make sure that your settings are set so that only the people that you want to see the information you're putting out there is out there. Make sure that only your friends can see it. Also, maybe take off those geo trackers so that people don't know, oh, you posted that beautiful picture of your dinner, you're in Florida. I know that now. So just think of these things, sometimes we forget the easiest things that we can do. The other thing that I tell people is don't answer the phone. Don't answer the phone if you don't know who's calling. People like to say, oh, well, I'm curious, or I want to mess with them. It's just not worth it. Robocalls are automated calls generated electronically. And when you pick up that phone call, that robocall, it's now going to tag it as an active line. So you may get bombarded with more robocalls because you picked that up. Don't be tempted to hit, push 2 to get on the do not call list. We get that question a lot. The National Do Not Call registry does work. But what I tell people generally is the calls and the robocalls you're receiving are from fraud, they're scammers, they're people that don't abide by the law, they really don't care.
Yeah. And Connie, so many of the folks in our system are dependent on service providers to provide them with help throughout the day, supports. What can they do? What type of trainings could they possibly go to, education events, to help them better support the folks in our system?
Well, we have some great webinars that we've taped. Danielle's been part of those. She's been a great partner for the last several years of our department. So I think staff can watch some of those in our training catalog. But some other things that staff can do to help protect individuals they support is just really be diligent. When they're helping them open their mail, look through those credit cards, and hopefully nothing will be out of ordinary, but if so, alert people to that right away. Make sure people feel safe talking to you, so that if someone does reach out to someone and say send money, that the support staff working with them, they feel comfortable enough talking to them about that. Maybe look for opportunities to have people meet people safely online, or make friends in their own communities. So those are some ways. Probably the biggest thing that we can do is also make sure that we're protecting the individual's information. So often when we support someone, we have access to all their information, their Medicaid number, their Social Security number, date of birth, all those kind of things. And we can do a lot by protecting that information, making sure it's secure at all times, and that it doesn't fall into hands of people that don't need to have it.
So we've got a great question from the audience. My son lives on his own. What's the best way to monitor his social media messaging and friends? How does somebody have that conversation with their son who lives on their own, has their independence, but we're trying to look out to make sure they're not being scammed by some of these social media things that we're talking about?
I guess the most important thing, as I said earlier, is just check your son or daughter's settings. Make sure that only the friends that they accept are the friends that are going to see what they're posting. The other thing I tell people is when you get a friend request and you're not quite sure if you're already a friend of theirs, we see this a lot, go to your friend setting, put that name in there, and see if you're already a friend. Because what happens is these scammers steal your profile, they steal the picture, everything that looks like a friend, and then what they do is they send you a message or another friend request, and you think, well, I thought I was their friend, but I'm not sure. So just be honest with your son or daughter, have that conversation. Tell them there are bad guys out there trying to reach out to them through social media, through the internet, and you just want to help keep them safe. I would have that conversation with my mother, my father, my children. Everybody needs to know how to stay safe online, and it's tricky to maneuver. Technology is going faster than I think that we can quite comprehend it, especially if you're a little older and not staying hip to all of it. So I think it's just good to have those conversations and even get in there and kind of maneuver through on the computer and the devices. The other thing you have to know is you have to change those settings on your laptop as well as your smartphone, as well as your iPad or every device is treated differently. Just because you've made those setting recommendations on one device, you have to transfer that over.
So we have another question about door-to-door scams. How can we keep the folks that we love who are living on their own safe from those? How do we educate folks about those?
So what we see is, unfortunately, we get complaints and people talking about, oh, this person came to my door and wants me to switch my electric or my gas company. I try to tell people, if you don't want someone to solicit, just tell them that. But they should have information where you could do a quick check. The other thing I tell people is don't give them any information. Don't give them your bill, because they can get personal information off of that bill. They can automatically switch you and you're not aware of that. You do have rights if you have a door-to-door solicitor come and they want to do contract work. You have a 3-day right to cancel. They cannot start that work if you agree to them starting work. They can't within those 3 days. You can cancel that within that 3 days as well. So just do your research. You can do that many different ways. If they claim to be a company, make sure you do your research before agreeing to that. Make sure you get everything in writing. That's something else that we see, unfortunately, is they tell you something and promise you something, then you get the bill and you say, wait, you were going to take $50 off. Oh, I don't remember that. So you want to make sure that you get everything in writing. Do your research on that business before signing on the dotted line. I often also tell people, if you want to change any kind of service in your home or want to buy something, you do the research. Don't let somebody pressure you into acting right away. Take your time. You have that right as a consumer to research that company, to find out what they're about and their product and so forth before signing on the dotted line, but also get that in writing.
So another great question, if there is a suspicion or if a family member has a suspicion about an online interaction, who's the first call? Who's, in that call tree that we all have in our minds, who's the first call? Is it the police? Is it the county board? Is it the AG's office? How do we kind of troubleshoot that?
I would say the police, letting them know that this is happening in your community, and then the Attorney General's office. Any order that you go, it's all important, making that phone call and not just, especially financially if they've been scammed. They want to know about that. Any of those organizations, the Federal Trade Commission, the Better Business Bureau, all of us work together to make sure Ohio citizens are safe, and so just report it.
And I think the most important thing with the notification is obviously making sure there's no further loss to that person. So, whether you're reporting it to the police first or at the AG's office and then the county board, whatever that sequence, we want to make sure that person is, their resources are secure at that time so that, nothing further happens to them. And whether that's having credit checks done afterwards and ongoing, we just want to make sure that immediate actions are put into place to prevent further loss to them.
So one of the results of some of these scams is identity theft. Now, fortunately, I've never had that problem because people have taken a look at my identity and thrown it back. So it's not a problem for me. But for some folks that does happen. So can you just say a little bit about why do people want to steal other people's identities? What can they do with that?
So first of all, what identity theft is somebody obtains and uses your personal information without your permission to commit fraud. We see this in many different forms. The most common form would probably be credit identity theft. And what these people want is to steal your information and open up credit cards and credit under somebody's name, and then they go off and then they charge items under your name and account. That's why they want the information. They don't want to use their own money. Many times some of these individuals may not have the credit and they can't buy that giant, screen TV or whatever it is, and they want to fraud other people and use their dime, not their own.
Connie, what?
Or less a year, so not a huge number, but in the cases that we've seen, people have lost thousands of dollars, and it's taken a while to restore their credit. So whether it may be a one-time large purchase, this kind of being taking that person's identity takes a lot of effort to restore their credit. So that's what we're seeing. A lot of times it's using their credit card to open, to purchase a cell phone or some smaller items like that. And we see that, like I said, about 30 times a year. And it can be really devastating for the person.
So Connie, I think this question would be good for you. From the audience, how can we take precautions against caregiver theft? So even with background checks and appropriate training and the education that we're talking about, it seems to happen a lot with elderly and folks that live in DD settings. Can you say a little bit about how prevalent you see that and what families can do to kind of take steps to prevent that?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have about 1,200 allegations a year of misappropriation, and about 800 of those are found to be substantiated or have happened. About 25 to 30% of those involve staff. And so what we tell people they can do to prevent this from occurring is again, just be diligent. We want to make sure that providers, have appropriate oversight of the staff that are working in their homes. And so we know that theft is probably always going to occur, but how can we minimize the risk to the individual? So we believe that staff and provider agencies should have really good systems for monitoring funds, so that whether that's a double check, that when I come in and work with Steve, another staff person might do an audit with me so we can verify the funds. Too often we see that, 10 to so people have access to the funds of the person they're working with. So it makes it really hard, whether it's $20 taken or $50 taken. There's so many people with access to that money to know who may have taken it. And so what we see is sometimes we can't determine who took the money. While the agency may be responsible for making sure those funds are restored to that person, we don't know who has taken it. So we always just tell people to make sure that if they see anything amiss, obviously when they're looking at people's credit card statements, when they're looking at their bills, to really monitor that, when they're looking at petty cash, to make sure that those kind of funds balance all the time, and often doing a routine accounting of people's items. A lot of us have, cell phones or iPads or laptops or things like that. Make sure that we know where those items are at all times, and really trying to keep a good accounting of those items.
So I would like to say in conjunction with that if you do have waiver services, there is a waiver service called money management. Mm-hmm. And so you can access that service and have a third party take care of the money for somebody and still have the in-home services from another company. So there is that checks and balances available if you do have waiver services.
Can I just add one more quick thing about identity theft? So our office does offer another service to help people that may have been taken advantage by identity theft. We have an identity theft unit, and we would help anybody that is suspecting that has been a victim. We will help switch that around for them. That is we have a self-help offer where we will give them a self-help booklet and they can walk through how to get their identity back. Or the most popular type is we would assign one of our identity theft unit people to work with that individual, those credit agencies and debt collectors on that person's behalf to resolve that identity theft issue. So our office also has that service.
Great. So kind of wrapping things up here, Danielle, we'll start with you. What's one thing that someone or a family member can do to help protect their loved one from these scams?
Well, I guess be educated and have that conversation with them. There's so many things that we can do that are fairly simple. I think that we have some resources and some links online to some publications that'll help kind of walk some of these families and individuals through what we've talked about today and give them more resources. So having those conversations and staying educated about what's out there.
So where online can folks find information from the Attorney General's office?
Yeah, so I would suggest going to ohioprotects.org. It's a fairly new initiative that our consumer protection section has put out there. You can go there and watch a couple videos on examples of scams. You can also file a complaint with our office through there, or we might put out a new scam that might be something new that we've seen, and some good consumer information.
Great. And Connie, what's one thing that, from your perspective, from the MUI unit, families can do to help prevent these things?
I think protecting people's confidential information is one big step that people can take, and ensuring and preventing some of these scams from happening.
And we've referenced a lot of MUI data today, things like that. Where can families find more information about that data, or health and welfare alerts, things like that?
Great question. So people can go online to dodd.ohio.gov, and you can go on our health and welfare section, and we have a lot of information there. Additionally, we have information in our training catalog. We have webinars that Danielle has done in the past, and we also have publications that people can access.
So Danielle, can you give us the AG's office website just one more time?
www.ohioattorneygeneral.gov.
Okay, great.
And a phone number would be 1-800-282-0515. We have a call center that they could stream questions.
Great. Great. Well, thank you so much, Danielle and Connie, for your
you.
time today. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. Just want to give just a few quick plugs here at the end. We have our Family Organization Forum on September 25th. Our next family talk is October 5th. We're going to cover disability employment and the Employment First initiative here in Ohio. Our Family Advisory Council is October 24th. We're going to be talking about public policy and how families can get more involved in that. You can find all this information, all the links to this on our Supporting Families website. It's at the DODD webpage. Also like to direct you to kind of a new resource that we would like families to check out called frnohio.org. It's a place where families can get information, share information with others in a family forum, trainings, tools, all kinds of information is there. So check out frnohio.org. Thank you all very much for attending, and have a great day.